Oh, right. We are recording, Shane. Welcome to, I don't know what this even is. Welcome to the first version of something.
Brad's podcast.
Brad's podcast on LinkedIn.
It's going to be a great podcast.
For joining me on a Saturday.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Yeah. How's your quarantine going?
Surviving and absolutely thriving.
Sure.
Yeah. No question.
Great perspective to have.
Absolutely, man. It's been good. I mean, it's been challenging being inside all the time. However, I know that that's important to making sure that like we flatten the curve, right?
Sure. Yeah, we're both pretty social people. We like doing activities. We like meeting new people. So at first, there's a little bit of resistance to it. And then you settle in and recognize that this is a great opportunity to learn a lot of things and connect in different ways that maybe we're not used to connecting in.
That's true. Power social media. I started an online course at Yale.
Oh, wow.
Negotiation. So that's been interesting. Working a lot. I mean, I think having boundaries too when you're working in quarantine is important. Like, I'm going to stop working at this time.
Sure.
Before your soul starts to hurt from working.
Right.
So much.
Your computer's there. So the tendency is for folks to check emails at 10 p.m. or at 6 a.m. And that's probably not healthy.
Well, I mean, I still do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Just check it and then go away.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm looking forward to this show. This is awesome.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Come on. It's going to be great.
Something I'd wanted to do for a while. And I guess this quarantine was the motivation to begin something like this because we have time inside and no better of a guest to have on the show for the first time than you. So I'm super grateful that you were able to join today.
Cool. I feel like one of the kids on the playground that everyone's lined up and I was picked first for football. And so that's an honor.
You were picked first.
Yes.
Yeah, feel special about that. So maybe for some context.
It feels good.
Yeah. So maybe for some context, love to talk about your background, like before you even came to San Francisco, before you started doing sales. Tell us about maybe briefly growing up and what brought you to where you are the last couple of years in San Francisco doing sales for a tech company.
Sure. My whole life story.
Yeah. A few minutes.
Cool. You got a couple hours?
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. I grew up with pretty much all my needs met. I had everything that I really needed. Thankfully, because my parents provided, and I'm very lucky to have come from a family where both my parents are still married and have a healthy marriage and have a sister. I was on track to be a pilot. So I have my pilot's license, and in college, I was pretty much destined to be a pilot.
Is this like a commercial pilot or like a military pilot?
Commercial pilot.
Commercial pilot.
The Air Force.
I did not know that.
Yeah. The Air Force didn't accept me. So I decided to get scholarships and work hard and pay for my flight training. So I have 275 flight hours and I was on track to be a pilot. That's where I was headed.
Why did you not get accepted into the Air Force?
Grades.
Really?
I think I was distracted too much by girls, to be honest.
Gotcha. Okay.
And baseball.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Fun things too.
Yeah. That's the truth.
So you were going down this path of being a pilot, and then what happened?
I did an internship at one of the top airlines in the world. I was so fortunate to do an internship in college where there were hundreds of applicants and they only chose 3. And for whatever reason, to this day, I'm not even sure why they picked me, but they did. And so I packed my bags, drove across country, and lived in Georgia. So I took a semester off of school and worked at the Delta Airlines headquarters, and it was rough. I mean, it was rough. Every single day was predictable. Like I knew what mentally it was rough. In reality, it was fine. It was easy.
I see.
It's
because you were doing the same thing day to day?
Yes. It was the same thing day to day, kind of like being a pilot, where you push the same buttons and the airplane goes up and then it goes down.
Right.
So I did an internship there, and it was still a good experience. The truth is, though, My internship ended early. I did not, it just like wasn't where my heart is. And what really happened is I heard this story about a pilot at Delta that I love to share because it's the truth about how the airline industry works in a sense. And there was this pilot who was flying internationally, and he had suffered a heart attack on his way from America to Japan, and he passed away, unfortunately. When he landed in
during
Japan,
his flight.
During his flight, he was flying. He wasn't actually flying, but when you fly internationally, there's two sets of pilots, so they rotate in and out.
I see. So you had a co-pilot.
A co-pilot, yep.
Yeah.
So he wasn't actually flying, but he was a pilot on the plane. Anyways, he passed away. Long story short, his family, they got the news. They're obviously devastated. I mean, can you imagine?
Yeah.
Figuring out that a loved one died. And so the family had to go to Japan and pick up this stuff. Because as a pilot, you live essentially like international pilots, you live in two countries,
Right.
And so they went and cleaned out his locker. And in the locker, they found something. The family of whose dad just passed away, they opened the locker and they found photos of themselves and then also another family. And that pilot had two families. He had a Japanese family and an American family. So he was like living two lives.
Wow. That's a plot turn.
Yeah. And that just always stuck with me. And yeah, that really hit me. And I decided that, hey, family is really important to me. Not that I would ever do that to my wife, ever. I don't think no one intends to do that. I don't think this man intended to do that. He just the temptation, I imagine, was very strong. And it's really hard. Sure. It's a tough life.
Right.
Being on the road. So that was a big moment for me. And I decided not to be a pilot. So I made a shift.
And it's interesting that you you chose sales, which also can lead you down a path where you're spending a lot of time on the road away from family. If you choose a sales job that's focused in the field and you're not at your company's office each day. So what led you to choose sales out of hundreds of other things you could have done with your life?
The people. When
comes back to the people.
Comes back to the people. Yeah. Part of the internship at Delta is you had travel benefits. So I definitely took advantage of it and had an opportunity to go to 41 countries the last few years.
A lot of countries.
That's a lot of countries. Yeah. A huge blessing. Yeah. And, the thing is though, the countries don't actually even matter. What matters is the people. And the same thing in sales is who you're talking to in the moment, who you're selling to, or who you're communicating with, who you're trying to help. That's what fuels me. That's what fires me up. And right. That's why sales just felt like the natural thing to do. And so I got a solar job in sales in Arizona naturally, since it's so freaking hot there.
Right. Let's utilize that sun power.
It's so hot in Arizona.
I've been. I didn't enjoy it.
Yeah. You didn't enjoy it?
No, I mean, I grew up in Southern California.
So
I like Southern California hot, which is 75, 80 degrees maximum.
Uh-huh.
And then my first sales job out of school, out of UCLA, I worked for a running shoe startup. And It was based out of Boulder, Colorado. And I was selling running shoes into retail stores. So there's a chain of stores nationally called Fleet Feet, and in the Bay Area, there's Sports Basement, those kind of stores. And my territory was the entire West Coast. And I was super lucky that first job out of school, I'm 21 years old, and I got to travel to Seattle and to Colorado and to Arizona. And I just remember going to Arizona for the first time in the winter, saying to myself, this is pretty nice. I could enjoy this. This is fun. It's a good place. And then going back 6 months later in August, and just was in a rental car. And each time I would step out of the car to go have my meeting, would just sweat so much.
Yeah.
And it was just the hottest thing I had ever felt. So that's my Arizona experience. You live there.
Yeah. People drive with oven mitts on their hands.
For what reason?
Because the steering wheels are so hot.
Oh my God. I hadn't heard that before.
Yeah. Well, at least I did.
Right. Maybe that was a you thing and not a general thing.
Yeah, it was probably me. Let's be honest. I'm pretty freaking weird.
Yeah, that's wild.
Door
So you took the solar job, and is that selling door to door?
to door.
So tell us about that, because I've never done a job selling door to door. I've done just about any other type of sales job, not that.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
It was so good. It was so challenging. You know, in sales, I learned the basic principles of the person who has the most no's is
Yeah.
certainly going to be the person with the most yeses. And so I had the opportunity to put that principle to the test for a long time during college, and it paid off. It worked.
Oh, this was during college that you had the solar job.
This was during college. Yeah. Yeah. I was doing that. I had a solar job. I was hosting an Airbnb as well. I worked at an airport as well. And then I was taking 19 school credits.
I mean, you could have done so much more. Come on, man.
I know.
What are you doing?
You know, on the Enneagram, have you ever done an Enneagram?
I have, yeah.
What number are you?
Guess.
Are you a 1?
I am not.
Are you a 3?
I'm a 3.
I'm a 3 as well.
We're both 3s.
We're both 3s.
What is your wing?
What's my what?
So in the Enneagram, there's a wing, which is you have your main one, and then your wing is the one on either side you more identify with. So you would be either a 3-wing 2 or a 3-wing 4.
So I think I'm a 7 and a 1 or something like that.
Okay.
So I just know I'm a 3. And 3, if people are listening, 3 is the achiever.
Right.
Which can be a good thing and also a detrimental thing, because sometimes you feel like you're not doing enough, and that puts you into like a depressive state, which really is shitty. Sorry, it's really crappy.
Has that been tough because of this COVID-19 thing? Do you find like you're able to achieve, or like your quotient for achievement is being lowered in a healthy way to make you okay with just being Shane without having to achieve something?
That's an amazing question. This is such an interesting time being in quarantine. I think that you can still achieve and be in quarantine. You obviously can. I mean, we're making a show and we're going to bring value to people today. Like we're achieving. I mean,
yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I really believe like this is going to be helpful for people. So like, as far as, so if you're feeling like you have goals and you're not getting towards them, then you should like have people around you that, you know, you can ask people who are close to you, like for the truth. I think that's the one thing that I do is like, I feel like I'm off track from achieving something. I'll say like, hey, what are your thoughts on this? What have you seen recently? So I don't know if that really answers your question of like quarantine.
I don't know if it did either.
I mean, you wake up in the morning and you choose whether or not you want to get something done or not. So sure. I feel like I'm getting things done. Do you?
I am, for sure.
Yeah, I think so too.
Do you base your sense of success on getting things done? What does success mean to you? Let's just go totally off track, off the sales thing, and just dive into life in general.
Success? In my mind, I want it to be, success means like helping the most people. And like, that's the interview answer, is to say like helping the most people. Really though, success to me means being the generational shift in my family where I make a massive difference for a long, long time. Because I come from a family where, like a rough history, where, I mean, alcoholics, functioning alcoholics, normal alcoholics, etc. And what makes me feel successful is like being the shift and having boundaries and having values and having morals and treating people with respect. Like, and ultimately, I want to be the best negotiator in the world.
There you go. That's deep what you said. The first part. At what age did you realize that you wanted to, that family was so important to you that you wanted to set up future generations of your family better than they are today?
Mm.
At what point did you realize you wanted to make a shift?
At my darkest moment, when you feel like you're kind of in a box and there's like no one to, like, you can talk to people, but will they actually understand? I think that's the moment when I was like, all right, I'm making a decision to be planted where I'm at, like in this city specifically. I think a lot of us want to like move around and go place to place, but like the moment that we decide to plant somewhere, everything changed for me when I decided to be planted in San Francisco.
So that was the moment, was deciding that San Francisco was your home.
It was a huge moment. Huge.
Are you comfortable talking about your darkest moment?
How much are you paying me?
I'll pay you whatever you want, Shane.
My Venmo is...
I'll send you DoorDash. Want some Panda Express? I'll send you some Panda Express.
Oh, I love Panda Express.
I know.
Oh,
why is that, by the way? Why do you love orange chicken so much?
Well, who doesn't love orange chicken?
I mean, some people don't feel like it's the healthiest choice.
Well, mix it with some broccoli and call it healthy.
There you go.
Why do I love Panda Express? Oh, you know what? The truth is because I hated it for the longest time. I was too scared to try it. I didn't want to get out of my comfort zone. And the moment I tried it, my whole life changed, really.
What was your comfort zone before Panda Express?
Like cereal, very basics.
Were you like an adult at this time, or were you like 15?
Oh no, I was young. I was like 15.
You were young.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
It's
so good. It's so good. I'm so happy thinking about it.
It's really greasy, and there's like food that is maybe better, I feel.
Yeah, no, there absolutely is better Chinese food. That's fine. Go to PF Chang's, but it's not going to taste the same.
This morning I went to this Filipino fast food restaurant called Jollibee's.
Tell me more.
It's Filipino fast food, which was news to me. I had Filipino before, not Filipino fast food. And Jollibee's is in Daly City. You got to drive to Daly City. A lot of Filipinos live in Daly City. And it's fried chicken. They also have spaghetti, like Filipino spaghetti, which was sold out. Otherwise, I would have had it. It's pretty sweet, I hear. There's a drink called Holo Holo. Holo Holo? I believe I'm remembering correctly. If I'm not remembering correctly, I'll edit it in post-production.
It sounds right.
It sounds right. It's like an ice drink. It's like a shaved ice drink with a bunch of beans in it. So it was an incredibly long line. If you're a fan of Asian fast food like Panda Express, I recommend you check out Jollibee's.
I just might. There's a place called Yen's in North Beach in San Francisco that I go to with my friend Megan. Good orange chicken. Not the same, but it's good. So you're right. There's options.
Yeah.
Anyways, darkest moment. Yeah. Darkest moment. It wasn't like you're on, I was on top of the Eiffel Tower and I got struck by lightning, and that was the moment. It was kind of like just a constant like pounding, a constant like habit where I was left feeling empty. And I maybe you know what I'm talking about. For me, it has to do with not setting boundaries. For me, it has to like not doing with respecting others and having self-control, and specifically like when it comes to dating and respecting myself as well with women, and just not having any sort of just like being crazy, and that left my soul empty. It hurt, and so that was a big change, a big moment.
You're a pretty young guy right now. I'm curious what age you were when you felt this. You felt this shift. You wanted to change something.
Yeah, it was right around 22 or 23.
Had you moved to San Francisco already, or this is before you moved to San Francisco?
This was in San Francisco. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
It's so wild for you to like recognize that something that so many people do, dating, wasn't serving you. And I'm not saying you don't date at all right now. I'm guessing it was lots of dating, as this city is known for. I mean, my experience in San Francisco has been, this feels like the home of casual dating, where everyone's on a dating app and seeing multiple people at the same time. And people are very focused on their careers. And I think as a result of that, I could be mistaken, as a result of that, they don't really want to invest in relationships that much. They want the relationship to be there on the side to serve them in sort of a superficial way. And that's all that they want from it, because they are so focused on their career. So it's like, it's a great thing that folks here are super driven to make a difference in the world, to make money, to better themselves. And yet, one of the manifestations of that is a real challenging time people have in the city with relationships.
I've put on a show for so many people.
Of course. You're a salesman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also for all the salespeople listening, like, there has to be that switch can't always be turned on because it hurts people. I've hurt so many people in the past, and I missed one thing that's really important. It was, I didn't realize what I was doing. I actually had people who I trusted in my life speak into me and say, like, this is what they're seeing. And I think that that's really powerful, to see a different perspective. It's like seeing something for the first time from a new angle. And I received it, what they had to say, because it was true. But I didn't see it because I was too selfish.
Yeah. Yeah, I can definitely relate to your experience for sure.
Yeah.
In sales, we focus so much on these soft skills, right? Which is talking, telling stories,
being persuasive,
handling objections, being persuasive, learning how to interact with people of different personalities, being able to shift yourself on a dime to be a totally different person.
Dude, it's so true.
And there's sort of a dark side of that you can let yourself go to if you don't have a healthy boundary of separation between what you do for a living and your personal life.
This is so good. And no one talks about it.
And I'm not even certain that it's healthy in your professional life to be such a chameleon. Like, yeah. I mean, it's important to be authentic, and I believe you can also shift yourself a little bit. I don't know. I understand where you're coming from for sure.
Well, in my sales training growing up and like learning, I was always taught to be agreeable and never to say no, and not to take a no, to overcome that no. And
yeah, overcome every no. Every no is an opportunity for a yes, right?
Yeah, and the way you overcome an objection is to call it out before it even is said. That's how you overcome an objection. And yeah, that's directly applicable, especially when communicating with the opposite sex, and especially like in an environment where, you know, there's lots of things happening.
Did you feel like, this is so interesting. Did you feel like your experience dating happened because of your sales training and your experience with that? Or do you feel like it, in other words, if you didn't choose to become a salesperson, would you have been as, I don't know what the right word is. I don't want to say promiscuous.
No, you can say that.
I don't know if it's true. I'm guessing this is, would you have been dating around so much had it not been for sales?
That's an amazing question. The answer is most likely yes.
I see.
Absolutely. Yeah, probably. And
sure.
Yeah, and thank God that I have people who like just told me the truth. I think there's a shortage of truth sometimes in our conversations where we fear that, oh, will Brad or will someone not like me because I'm going to tell them the truth of how I feel about
Mm.
them or what I see in them. And that's garbage. So life is too damn short.
And who were these folks that were able to be honest with you? Were they the gals that you were dating, or were they like family or other people in your life?
Other people in my life, like close friends. So I have like 4 best friends, and we just trust each other because we've been through hard stuff. And we also tell each other, like, yes, receive what you have to say, or no, like, I actually don't receive that. It doesn't make any sense.
That's specifically the words that you use. I don't receive that, or do
Yeah,
that.
it's really powerful. You should try it.
That's super powerful, actually. I'm gonna remember that. I'm gonna write it down.
Yeah.
I'm gonna write it down right now.
But yeah, there's my friend Rachel. She's the one who really uses it most. She's kind of like the brainchild. She came up with it basically, and
Sure.
she just speaks her dreams, man. She just speaks out what she has in her mind and like the vision she has for her life, and it's powerful.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I also have one of my best friends is a girl, and we sort of have the same relationship. We're just super open and honest with each other.
Mm-hmm.
There's this like, people say that you can't have a really good friend of the opposite gender.
That's false, but yeah.
Not that there's only 2 genders, there's many genders. People say that, you know, if you're a guy, it's tough to have a friend who's a girl. And I disagree. I feel like
Yeah.
I get along really well with women because I have a close relationship with my mom. I also have a sister, and I also have a brother, so get along well with guys as well. I've generally had like friends who were girls my entire life, and my friend Simi, shout out to you if you're watching this. I don't know why you would be. Simi's a nurse, so she probably has no reason to watch this. Super close friendship, and we're just very honest with each other and go to each other for a lot of advice, which is special. Sounds like that's what you have with your friend.
It's so important. It's so important. I mean, think about how much time you have in a day. Like, just like as a salesperson, you can only spend an X amount of time with certain prospects. And it's almost like I found myself in the past, especially in high school, trying to be someone who everyone wanted instead of like being who I wanted. And so I was putting on a show naturally as a salesperson, and yeah, dancing and doing whatever, doing silly things. And that's not fun. That's empty. I mean, and I also am not perfect. Like, I still do certain things like that to this day where,
right.
But at least I recognize it, and
you have an awareness of it, which is like the first step to, I don't know, enlightenment or something, right? It's just having an awareness of what it is that you're doing. So many people go through the world not really knowing what they're doing and helping other people.
Gotta feel your hands.
Feel your hands. That's right. One of my favorite topics. How many people do you feel like you can have in your inner circle? You mentioned you have 4 best friends. Is it just those 4 people, or is it more than that? And
good question.
I consider an inner circle like these are people that you see or talk to on a weekly, or kind of at the very least like a bi-weekly, once every 2 weeks basis.
Yeah.
So how many people are you able to maintain relationships like that with?
That's an amazing question. Everyone is different. So I'll answer it from my perspective. For me, in my room right now, in my bedroom, I have 10 names. And those are the people who I like pour into daily. So it's the 4, and then my family as well. And then, so, I mean, 10, I would say 10, because other than that, this is what happens is like, you have a cup, like you are a cup, and you can only pour out so much before you're empty, and you need to be filled back up by other people in your life. And so if you're just pouring out, you're going to be miserable. But if you pour out into the right places, then you're going to be filled back up.
I like that metaphor.
Motivation metaphor.
Motivational metaphors.
Motivation metaphor. People hate them. It's fine. We don't care.
What do you do to fill your cup back up?
Oof. Read, pray, be with people, get outside, run, scream.
So good. Do you ever scream in public? Like go into populate a place and scream.
Yeah. So I have a friend, Tyler, who after we run or we're running up the street, up Polk Street here in San Francisco, he'll just scream, like roar.
Nice.
That's weird, but it's effective.
Super weird.
Super weird. And, you know, people normally turn. But the thing is, it doesn't matter if it's weird because, like, he doesn't care what people think.
That's great. I love it. I mean, SF too, it's like not that weird. This probably
Yeah, let's be honest.
on like an hourly basis in the city.
Yeah, there's like many naked people walking around. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know that we've really talked about sales. It's interesting. I had this one idea that we're about like sales techniques and things, and we haven't.
We can do that in the next show.
Yeah, what I wanted to ask you next is, so what do you do for people in your life that aren't those 10 people? Like, let's call it your I look at friendships and relationships, and maybe this is like a weirdly strategic way to consider your friends and social circles. I see an inner circle, as you mentioned, 10 folks, and I see an outer circle of people. These are people that maybe you have on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn that you've met, or maybe you haven't even met. Maybe you've just interacted with online, you've messaged. That's the outer circle. For most of us, that's thousands of people. And then the circle that I spend time considering how to engage with is the middle circle. And this might be anywhere from 50 to a couple hundred people that aren't that inner 10. And yet, kind of like you and I, you want to have some sort of meaningful interaction with on some cadence. And you and I are super lucky in that we have common activities that we do on a weekly basis. So we have an excuse to see each other weekly with Toastmasters without having to go out of our way. And that's awesome. But for folks that you don't have a regularly scheduled weekly activity with, and they're in your middle circle, how do you maintain those relationships?
Well, you do three things. First thing is, when you're with them, you make sure you're listening and just give them your best and ultimately leave them better than when you found them. The second thing is, like, you compliment them. It's super easy to encourage someone. And it makes me think of, since you mentioned Toastmasters, there was one week where I was like having a pretty tough week for whatever reason. And I went to Toastmasters, and after the Toastmasters meeting, you and I had a conversation in the lobby at Toastmasters. Like, we talked for like 30, 45 minutes after, and we just talked about dreams. We talked about vision. We just talked about like all these amazing things that are going on in our life. And I was pushing you to, like, I think I was gently mentioning, like, you should go coach someone, like you should go teach, like you are bigger than this club, you know, and which I firmly believe. And that shifted my whole week. And I had an amazing week after that conversation. It was a massive shift. So you never know when you can be that shift with someone, even if it's not in your inner circle. Who cares? Like, yeah, just listening to them and also encouraging them is what I try to do. Not perfect, but also the third thing is like bringing joy. Not being so serious, man. People are so serious. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, I asked you a question earlier, like, how do you define success? And for me, my definition of success is not attached to any financial number. It's not attached to any sort of relationship outside of myself. It's more just like, how much joy can I exude?
Whoa.
And that's not to say you're not going to have moments where you're feeling down, because that's a part of then feeling joy. I see a lot of words as meaning the same thing, whether it's joy or inspired or relaxed or grounded. Grounded is a word that you hear thrown around a lot in certain spiritual communities. To me, they mean the same thing. They mean you're kind of present to the moment, accepting what's being given to you, and enjoying for what it is, not trying to change things, not wishing your past was different or your future is any different, just focusing on the now. And so I try to spend as much of my day in this inspired, joyful state as I can. And if I go to sleep each night, reflecting on my day, realizing that I felt a lot of joy and that I was relaxed, and I was inspired, that was a great day. And I try to repeat that. And from that place of joy, comes the other things that people traditionally define as successful, like money and relationships and whatever else.
And you do a really great job of that. I mean, one of the best at that. And I also really admire about you is you carry yourself like you really respect yourself. There's Matthew McConaughey talks about like one of the greatest lessons. Matthew McConaughey, what a guy!
Great guy,
great actor. Have you seen the movie The Gentleman?
I have not.
Oh, it's a must.
What's the elevator pitch?
It's so good. It's so good. It doesn't need an elevator pitch.
All right, I'll have to go watch it.
Honestly, you won't regret it. It's super good.
Okay.
He talks about how his mom taught him one lesson, and the lesson is that in order to respect others, you have to respect yourself. And I think that you do that really well. And I think that maybe that's like where sometimes your joy comes from too, in a way.
Sure.
Because you know who you are. And I think, here it is. When I see you walk into a room, you don't look for the acceptance of others. You accept everyone else for who they are. And as salespeople, as humans, that's a powerful way to live.
Well, one thing that I've learned is it's really tough to change people.
You don't say.
So, as good of a story as you can tell, or as inspiring or persuasive as you try to be, it's really tough to change people. So I just accept them and tell my stories, my truth. And if they want to inquire more about that, they can. Otherwise, I'm very okay with how other people are.
Yeah, that's as a recovering people pleaser, I admire that.
Yeah. So we've been recording for, 45 minutes now. Maybe let's do 15 more minutes. There's so many things we can talk about.
I was thinking we should do an episode when it's specifically about sales. We should do an episode about like the suicide hotline and those tactics from there that you can use to maximize your sales. That would be really cool. I think people would love that too. Like I've been kind of
bummed because I was still going through training. And because I was still going through training, I haven't been doing it because they kind of reduced headcount for a bit because of COVID-19. Yeah. And so it's been, 5 or 6 weeks since I've been manning the suicide hotline. And I'd only done 1 week of taking calls by myself. So I don't really know what their strategy is going to be when we come back to like get us back into it. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. Maybe they'll ask us to hold a training.
Probably. That would be helpful for some of the new folks like myself.
Yeah.
Well, let's save that for another time. I'd love to talk about 2 more things.
Sure.
I'd love to talk about, we sort of went down this path of your faith.
Yeah.
Understand that you had this turning point in your life. You were dating around a lot. You recognized you wanted to make a shift in terms of your family and having values and boundaries. How did you come across your faith? And the second part of this 2-part question is, how does that affect your day-to-day life in sales, if it does at all?
Whoa.
Big question.
Hit me with a double whammy. Could do a whole episode about that, honestly.
I know.
This is something I love to talk about too, but I don't talk about it often as much as I wish I did. So I'm happy that you asked.
Wait, hold on. Why do you not talk about it a lot?
I think when it comes to faith and religion, sometimes people will instantly like be turned off if you come flying out the gates like, I'm Christian. No one wants to talk to that guy.
Some people like turn around and leave, go the other way.
Yeah. And and I don't blame them. No one like, that is not what Jesus did. Jesus, and this is in the Bible, he didn't walk around screaming he's Christian. He loved people really well and inspired hope. And to me, that's like what having faith can do for you, is that although you're going through something really tough, like you're not alone. You can call on the Lord at any time. And so how I came across it, I grew up in a Christian church and a big church, but I always sat in the back, and like I was always late. I was never on time to church. And so I was there, but I actually wasn't there, because after church I would go out and drink, or I would go, and do things like that. And then the same cycle kept happening. And then when I moved to San Francisco, you're obviously on your own when you move to a new city by yourself. And I had one friend, and then I stumbled across this church and met some really incredible people, and decided that my faith was going to be very important to me, and I'm going to prioritize that, and I'm going to be in the Word daily. I'm going to pray daily, and my whole life changed. And this is just my story. And everyone's story is a little different, but that's my story. It wasn't like I was, again, on top of the Eiffel Tower and struck by lightning, like, you're a Christian. No, it was like I knew God was always there for me. I just didn't always reach out, prioritize it. And when I did, man, you're talking about that joy that you're talking about a moment ago. Like, that's how I feel. That's how I feel every day because of my faith.
Did you decide that your faith was going to play an important part in your life before that turning point around dating, or were they in parallel, or was one before or after?
It was after.
It was after.
Yeah, because you know something, right? It's like you read a book but you don't implement it. That's kind of what I was doing.
Gotcha.
It's like I was there but not like actually taking action. Anyways, so I'm Christian, and I believe that like when Jesus came and then he died for your sins, and like we are able to live with grace because of that. It's very simple. People try to make it so confusing. To me, it's less about religion. It's more about like a relationship with God. Yeah.
And how does that affect sales, if it does?
Yeah. Man, I think of what I said a moment ago, where like leaving people better. It's not an easy thing to do. And in sales, you have to leave your customer better. Ultimately, they purchase your product, hopefully.
Otherwise, they're not going to pay you. Yeah.
Yeah.
They shouldn't have paid you.
So how does that affect me in sales? Well, the foundations of like faith are like having respect for others, treating people the way that you want to be treated. I mean, that's ultimately like what sales is. Obviously, there are people who take advantage of others and things like that. I've done that in the past, and I've made mistakes, and like I've gotten better and like learned what it actually means to act with integrity, and I'm still learning that. So how it works is just probably dependent on the situation. Like for me though, it really comes down to like treating others the way I want to be treated, and like leaving people better and giving hope. That's what sales is. It's giving people hope that they're painting a picture of the promised land, what their life could be with your product.
Sure. And do you feel like you're more authentic now? Like you don't have to play that character that you talked about before? Like you be yourself, or do you still feel like sometimes you put on a different outfit, so to speak?
No, I don't think I put on a different outfit. I think I'm striving to be like authentic and real. Here's the thing, like people sense, they can smell when you're not being authentic, or they can feel like when you're not being real, as salespeople especially. And some people don't want to be sold, and that's fine.
Right. They're not going to buy.
Yeah. And so I tell people that from the beginning of my sales conversations, like, hey, listen, like I really appreciate you taking the time, and if this seems like it's not a fit, then I'd really appreciate if you let me know. And if it is, I'm happy to help you and get you the support that you need. Right. And just telling them people up front, like, I respect you and I want you to be better. And if not something that you want, then we can find other resources for you.
That's an upfront contract.
Come on. Love those, man.
Which is super helpful.
Boundaries, baby.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you do upfront contracts?
Each meeting I have, I do an upfront contract.
Yeah.
And when I go to somebody else's meeting that they structured and they don't have an upfront contract, I sit there and just think, gosh, this would be so much better if there was an upfront contract. So we know what we're talking about. We know how much time we have, and we know what the outcomes are. And one tough thing for a lot of salespeople is getting maybes, right? Like, oh, we'll think about it, or why don't you send me some info? And so in my upfront contracts, I simply say like, look, we're going to talk for 30 minutes and you'll probably have some questions for me. I'll have some questions for you. We'll get to know each other. And at the end, let's agree to move forward to, let's say, a demo or maybe another conversation around what's challenging for you. Or equally great, if we don't want to go to that next step, then that's fine. What I'm trying to avoid here is a maybe, where I'm then reaching out to you weekly for the next 4 weeks. You're not happy. I'm not happy. Let's just avoid that altogether.
Okay, so that's amazing. I love that you had a practical example. So how about when you do an upfront contract and they don't follow through on it? What do you do? Like they agreed to it, but then they ghost you, is what I'm saying.
Well, there's no way to like Jedi mind control other people fully. Maybe the upfront contract could have been more explicit and more direct. You could tell a third person story about like, hey, sometimes in the past, or you could tell it about another person. Like, I have a friend who also does sales, and sometimes his customers don't feel comfortable telling him they're not interested. And so they end up ghosting him. And I just want to make sure that's not something that you would do, right? That's not something you would do. And when you ask somebody specifically, and then they tell you they wouldn't do it, and then they still do it, I would say that that person you should not sell to ever. They're not being honest.
You know, I've never heard of the third person thing, and I'm absolutely going to do that in the next week, because I have someone on Monday who I was given a referral at a big company, and she agreed to the upfront contract, and she did not answer me the whole week.
Yeah, and I would not. Yeah, you got to tell it about a third person, because if you tell it about yourself, like in the past, my prospects have ghosted me, that's sort of reinforcing.
Yeah.
Ghosting you. So you've got to tell it about this like fictitious third person.
Yeah. No one. Yeah.
Tell it about me. Like, I know this guy, Brad, he does sales. Sometimes his customers ghost him. You wouldn't do that to me, would you?
I love that, dude. Wow. They're going to be like, what's Brad's last name?
Yeah, exactly. Give him my LinkedIn. It's fine.
Yeah. That's so good. That's so good. Gosh. And you know, now more than ever is authenticity appreciated.
Right.
So come on, you know, people can get the answers to everything online anyways. So.
And prospects appreciate it because they're being sold to by so many different people.
Right.
And they're doing the dance, playing the game. When they come across somebody like yourself who's pretty straightforward and yet not pushing, like the analogy I like to give is, use a salesperson who's standing here and the prospect is here. And a lot of salespeople are leaning in like, come on, buy my stuff. And you're simply standing here and giving this other person the room to invest in you. And if they take a step forward, great. If they take a step back, that's also fine. So I try not to like lean in. Well, lean in is good in the Sheryl Sandberg kind of way. In this sense, I try not to sell. I really just try not to sell. In fact, sometimes I encourage people to consider other options as a mental exercise for them to think about if this is something they really want to do.
Yeah. It's huge. And also telling them that, hey, my product is probably one of the most expensive on the market right now.
Right. And there's probably there may be other options for you that are cheaper.
Yeah. I mean, assuming it is like one of the more expensive ones, then like people just appreciate the honesty.
Yeah.
But man, that upfront contract.
It's great. It's super important.
Yeah. It's huge.
I've closed deals just because of the upfront contract. Like, for that reason alone, the prospect came back after and said, you know, it was so clear what you wanted me to do. And after your presentation, it made sense that let's sign the deal. Done. Yeah. And also, an upfront contract at the end of your meeting is also important. Like, you should bookend your meetings with an upfront contract. The upfront contract at the end is setting the boundaries and expectations of what's going to come next. So you revisit the original upfront contract at the end and make sure that you're still on the same page with the client.
At the end?
At the end.
How do you do that?
Well, I guess I would check in with them first. We're running out of time. How do you feel about what you heard today? Is this something that you want to see a demo around? Is this something that you want to have another conversation about? Get their feedback, and then just set an upfront contract about what you're going to do. Say like, okay, well, I'm going to send you a calendar invite, and and then please accept it, and then we'll meet next week. And next week, I'll take you through the demo, and if you like it, we can talk about what it costs. If you don't like it, feel comfortable to tell me at any point in this process if you don't like it, and we can not continue. It's like a check-in.
Yeah, a polite check-in. Well, another question, so kind of changing gears, how do you find the pain points of your prospect?
Yeah, so I start with the features of my product that I'm selling. Right, Shane works at Poll Everywhere. They do polling software for people giving presentations. And so a feature, I don't know, let's walk you through it. Give me 3 features of your product. I'm talking like technical features, something that engineers care about.
Okay. First thing is you can launch a live poll. The second thing is you can integrate that poll through a plugin into your PowerPoint. We're talking features, right?
Features.
Okay. PowerPoint plugin, live poll. And the third thing is you can report out and keep that data that you've collected in an Excel sheet. Those are features.
Okay. So now tell me the benefits of each of those features.
Okay. The live poll, you get feedback from the audience live.
And why is that a benefit to anybody to have feedback?
You keep people engaged. How about that?
Keep the audience engaged.
Keep the audience engaged. The second benefit to the PowerPoint plugin is you get to have like a seamless presentation. So you just flow through your presentation.
Rather than having to like click out some other thing. Okay.
Yep. And the third and final thing is the benefit, you can share your data with others and measure your impact.
Okay, figure out if it's effective.
Yeah.
So from that benefit, what are the pains that each of those benefits solves?
People get distracted.
For the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Second, and there's many to that, but people get distracted. The second one, the PowerPoint thing, what's the pain? People don't want to have to jump out of the presentation and switch windows. It's unprofessional.
Okay.
And then the third thing is like not being able to like share their information, I guess. What's the pain point of that?
To me, like they don't know if it's like affected.
Yeah.
Okay, so from that pain, then create a question.
Ooh.
Yes or no answer. And this is the important thing, in my opinion. Your pain question has to be so clear that it has a yes or no answer.
Wow.
To those pains, create a yes/no pain question.
Okay.
So for the first one.
Do you want your audience to be bored?
No, it's not do you want. It's is your audience, in the presentations you've given currently or in the past, has your audience been distracted?
Whoa. Has your audience, so in the presentations that you've given in the past, has your audience been distracted?
Yeah. Because what they say in selling is like, something that you're currently going through or that you've gone through in the past is more painful than a desire for the future. Like you had to go through this experience of feeling like you weren't treating other people the way you wanted to treat them.
Right.
That was the pain. It wasn't just like you saw a future, you actually had a pain in that moment. So I would keep my yes, no pain questions to the present or the past, not the future.
Okay.
So yeah, for the first one, it's does your audience get distracted when you're giving presentations? And then for number 2,
And number two is like, do you want your audience to
Not do you want?
Oh, why am I saying that? In the past,
Yeah.
has your presentation, I don't know, has your presentation been glitchy? I don't know. This is kind of a weird one to have a pain point around.
What I like to say in a lot is like, have you noticed, or have, I mean, depends how emotional you want to make it. You could use some like emotional words, some like NLP. Do you know NLP?
I've heard of that, yeah.
Neuro-linguistic programming. You could say, has your audience ever been frustrated that you have to click out of your presentation to open up some other window? Or have you gotten negative feedback from your audience that the presentation didn't flow as smoothly as you?
That's it.
And the third one, what would be the yes, no pain question for the third one?
In the past, have you been able to share your results of your presentation?
Sure, yeah. Okay, so then the pain is if they say no. Yeah. Or you could say like, have you been confused about whether or not the presentation was effective?
Whoa.
Something like that.
Have you been able to measure if the presentation's been effective?
Correct. So that's how I create pain questions. I start with the feature.
Wow.
Which the feature informs the benefit.
Right.
Solves the pain, which helps you create the yes, no pain question. Wow. And any discovery call I go to, I have a list of 20 yes, no pain questions that I
really,
depending on the way the conversation goes. At this point, I just know them at the top of my head. And it's not like you're a robot reading down this list. It's just whichever direction it goes, you ask a yes, no pain question. And then if they say yes, their audience has been distracted, then I take them through like something called a pain funnel.
Oh, sounds awful.
Which digs into why that's a problem and if it's a big enough problem to actually fix or if it's not.
What happens when when your audience isn't engaged?
Yeah. How long has this been a problem? What have you tried to do to fix it?
Wow.
Are you able to quantify what this is costing you? How does this impact you specifically? Like, yes, this is a problem for your organization, but you, Shane Martin, how does this affect you?
Well, I don't know if people are paying attention. Yeah. Wow. I would love to see that list. You should post that list. Share that with the world.
Yeah. I mean, it's kudos. A lot of this comes from Sandler sales training. A lot of my sales methodology is straight from Sandler. Yeah. Some from other resources that I've gathered over the years. But yeah, that's how I approach pain. And then when I get a couple areas of pain, 2 to 3, where they've said yes to the pain question, and then I've taken them through the pain funnel to help them clarify their own problems, then you have pain to sell on.
Yeah, I think of it as, I was reading a book, Selling Above and Below the Line. Shout out Ryan Krebs from Google for recommending it.
Ryan Krebs.
They talk about bringing pain trains into the station. So the more pains that you know of and challenges that they're facing, the more pain trains that you have at the station, the more opportunity you have to make a difference and help them with your product if it's a fit. And you decide that together with the person.
Right.
Paint the promised land.
Yeah.
Anyways, I love this stuff.
That's great.
I'm
awesome. Glad that we got into some like technical sales stuff. That's
we've been all over the board, you know.
One of the last questions I want to ask is, how has Toastmasters been for you? I'm Shane's mentor. This is how Shane and I met, is at Toastmasters. How's it been, and has it helped you with your sales career and communication in general?
It has helped tremendously with my communication skills. I walked up on my first time walking up on stage in Toastmasters, I was shaking and my palms were sweaty. And I was like, I don't know what to say. I forgot everything.
You're like Eminem in that one song. Like, yeah. Sweaty.
Yeah. 8 Mile. Great movie too.
Good movie.
Oh, yeah. It's been fundamental in my development as not only a leader at my church, but also a leader And Toastmasters now, as the president, have the opportunity to do that through this COVID season, which has been interesting.
Yeah, what a time to be president of an in-person meeting organization.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna get through it.
So were you sold on Toastmasters right away, right after that first time? Or did it take you some time to like understand what was even going on?
Well, I thought it was kind of weird. I thought it was weird.
Why?
It's a little bit strange. It's
very formulaic.
Yeah, it's a little weird, when you first go. Like, and I see it in guests' eyes because I've gone now for a year, and I see like, they're like, "Oh my God, who are these people? They're all so friendly." And they're great speakers. Yeah, like a cult. Our club is fire. Our club is so good.
Good club. Good club. Shout out Rhino Business Toastmasters.
It's so good. Oh my God. Like, I've been to other clubs, and wow. So it really taught me three things. One, like, it taught me confidence. Like, right now, like, I could take the mic and go give a speech anywhere. I feel like at a wedding or whatever, like, because of table topics.
Yeah.
So where you get called on and you don't know what's going to be said. Improv classes were huge for that too. But
did you take improv classes?
We did.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Where did you take them?
Bats Improv and
Bats, yeah. I took Bats too.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh man, it'd be so fun if we took a class together. It was cool. Great. I did it with Tyler. It was fun.
Nice.
Yeah. So confidence for sure. Second thing is like material. Like getting practicing your material, and like figuring out like what type of speaker you are. It's kind of just like in a sport. Like as a runner, you're a runner, right, Brad? So
yeah,
like, I imagine there's different styles of running, different styles of playing baseball, just like how there's different styles of speaking. And so discovering my style, as in like humor, but also like impact and being serious, is like my style. So I'll get people laughing, and then I'll hit them with something that is like meaningful, because at the end of laughter is the height of listening. And so that's my style of speaking, as you know.
I love that. Like things, it's like self-discovery, right? You learn so much about yourself when you give yourself to the process of getting better at something like public speaking, which people say is like the number one fear. I've heard people say they would rather die, which doesn't even make sense, than speech. Like, how is that possible? And yet we see it when we see guests that it's so funny, because they say they were so scared, and yet from the audience's perspective, they seem to be doing just fine.
Yeah. A good example, Toastmaster and you have made such an impact on me. I remember going the first like 5 or 6 meetings, you have to choose a mentor. And I was like, I know that I want Brad to be my mentor, like I'm not going to join unless he says yes.
No pressure in it.
No pressure. And it's about the people as well, and the speakers, and Ed, and just so many wonderful people. Yeah. And I just celebrated 2 years here in San Francisco. And when I first came to San Francisco before Toastmasters, I was terrified of public speaking. And just this week had the opportunity to lead a Q&A on negotiations, and online in a stream, and there was 284 people.
It's a huge audience.
It's so cool. And it's not because of me. It's nothing that I did other than show up. It's because the people who were there were thoughtful, were truthful, and here's how you need to prove. And then like we had fun. We have fun. So I definitely miss it.
It's amazing that you've made that much growth in a year. Like that's humongous.
Yeah, and also speaking at Dev Week as well at the conference.
That's
great. Yeah, it was. We're just getting started.
Yeah. All right. Well, we should wrap up. I know that you've got other stuff to do. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Next week, I don't know. I'll put it on LinkedIn. I'll make sure I link your information on there as well, so people can talk to you if they want, learn more about you, etc. Is there any final parting message you want to leave with the 2 people that listen to this all the way through?
I think everyone who listened all the way through. I would say first thing, when you do see my name in the comment box, please do message me, and just know that I'm always available and highly available to talk to anyone, especially in a time like this. And the second thing is, there's an like shortage of hope right now, it seems like, and we have an opportunity to be that hope. And I would just inspire everyone to do their best to be that hope for someone who needs it most.
That's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining today.
Absolutely. Pleasure.
I appreciate it. It's been a blast. I learned a lot about you. I didn't know. You maybe learned some sales techniques.
Monday, game time.
There you go.
Looking forward to it.
All right, my man. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Cool.
I will talk to you next week.
All right. Sounds good.
Thank you, Shane.